resilience is both a process and a trait, because it becomes through the stress resilience. To overcome stress, coping with adversity, the final product will be a resilient person. And the second comment I made is that the process is never easy, right? I now met some of you guys, Chinese, they're tougher than you guys Americans. Why? Because life is harder. There comes more adversity. Look how Japanese become a tsunami. Because they're so used to earthquake and adversity. So for Japanese people, their recovery is amazing. Part of national trait is that endurance and overcome. They're part of national trait. So that about that. The second thing is very good meaning. All the Penn State training, I say, really big factor. You know why? If a soldier or anybody think that defending the country or defending an idea or pursuing a dream is something so important that worth dying for, they'll be very resilient. They'll never give up. They'll never have a dream. How difficult. You really believe in your dream. So that your meaning resilience. So my last question is how to build resilience. Okay.
Just a polite disagreement to prove that I don't think Roy's right. I've done a lot of reading about soldiers and talked to a lot of soldiers. I think it's pretty well agreed that soldiers do not fight for abstractions. They fight for their buddies. They fight for the person next to them. Now, if that's where the meaning comes from, fine. But I'm not quite sure that's what you said. You said they really believe in their ideals. Well, the ideal is the person next to you. The ideal is not the flag or democracy. Just a polite clarification. Which I wish politicians would understand. Because politicians are real big into the abstractions. But the people that politicians that send to war couldn't care less about the abstractions.
And how to build resilience. My last question is how to build. How come you become more resilient?
I want you to talk last. I want to give space to people to talk last. I want to give space to people to talk less. I don't talk.
I think one of the things that builds resilience is adversity.
What she said. We tried the strength study, but we didn't measure the outcome of that yet. We don't have research on that. It's just a trial. But maybe it is a direction to go. And it gives kids something to aspire towards.
Thanks. I think one of the parts of the process is processing, is thinking things through. Very often we're sort of running around looking for sort of the answers, and if you were just to sit down, and some people mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if you were just to sit down and think about your priorities and where you're heading and your values, and just sort of integrate that and process that, I think that would definitely move you in the direction of being resilient towards whatever you might be dealing with at the time.
The best way to build resilience, the highest form of resilience, that is growth and development rather than just persistence. The best way to build the best resilience is through hardiness training. We've got a lot of studies that show that. For example, Debbie Kashdan and I are now teaching a hardiness training course in curriculum at the University of California, Irvine. And we did a very carefully controlled study of about 1,500 undergraduates over 4 years' time. And we had a control group that was other courses taught by the same teachers, but they weren't hardiness courses. So that controlled the teacher effectiveness. And then what we found is that there were no differences in hardiness in the students in either group at the beginning of the course. At the end of the course, the students who had gone through hardiness training increased in hardiness a lot more than the students in the control group. And then, 6 to 24 months down the road, when the students in the whole sample graduated, whenever they graduated, we found that the students who had gone through the hardiness training course had improved in grade point average by the time they graduated. There's a lot of studies on that. So basically, it's hardiness training that would increase the really good kind of resilience. Now, the other kind of resilience was just staying the same way and not changing, not falling apart. I don't know. I'm not even interested.
I would a little bit specify at this point just how to build resilience. I would connect it to Csikszentmihalyi's idea of the challenge of complexity we are facing now. Because Csikszentmihalyi states that that the world is getting more and more complicated, and there are different strategies we may use to respond to these obstacles. Sometimes some of us try to get up to this complexity of the world, to grow and to develop, and some of us try to avoid the issue, to simplify ourselves as much as possible, to deny the challenge of complexity. Well, this is also quite a widespread strategy if you look around, not in this room surely, but in the street you see very many people who has taken this ideology of conscious self-simplification as the basis of their worldview, and this makes people vulnerable to the assumption shattering, to the cases of trauma and unpredictable adversities. So embracing complexity is a way that would allow you to keep the capacity to act and to restructure yourself and your world even in the worst cases. So it's about personal philosophy, it's about having an independent standing point, a personal worldview, and the basis for the basis of this is positive self-regard, because positive self-regard and self-conception, self-esteem just gives us more freedom in our decisions, and we are not sure about ourselves. We are more stereotyped in our acts and decisions, and more vulnerable to any kind of frustrations.
Just a quick word. Do you know that I supervised Csikszentmihalyi's dissertation?
So I'm going to give one more soapbox. I'm going to give my geeky version of John Lennon's Imagine for the field of science for me, which is to imagine a world, and I forget what I was going to say, but now it just came to me. Imagine a world where everyone's own pet construct, pet theory, and their pet measure, they held it lightly, and they bounced together and synergized all the other ideas that are out there. So they have hardiness, which I'm sure the data are amazing, with self-determination theory, term management theory, with acceptance and commitment therapy, emotion-focused therapy, functional analytics psychotherapy, and all these people that created their own little factions in psychology, touch each other, they look at the data, and let the best measures, the best intervention processes, and the best efficacious data win.
Good one.
Hello. A little bit answer, not a question, if I'm allowed, but it's empowering. I work with children, and building resilience for me is empowering children, and it's not just loving and admiring them, but 5 years ago when we had a war in Israel, and I was working in a class for disturbed emotional children, and we had rockets and bombs in this area. And we came to the classroom, and the kids were talking about what happened to them last night, because there were rockets and they were very afraid. So we collected their answers, what did you do? And then we told them that we are teaching teachers, that's what I usually do. And we want to tell them how they cope, because the kids know how to cope. So we collected and we made a notebook of how do we cope when we have war. And then we gave each one of them this notebook, and I know that they knew how to cope better afterwards. So, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I have to, at the moment, the final word, yeah? The final word is that rhythm therapy will incorporate everything. And just one of the strategies of rhythm therapy is ABCDE. A is accepting the situation bad. B is believing that you can overcome the thing you're fighting for. C means having courage, the commitment to achieve a goal. D means discover that that will result in being deeper and become more for yourself, discover more about the situation. And E means that you learn how to enjoy the happy moment in the midst of suffering. Like Frankl and Peterson said, the 5 points is also recommended by APA's 10 points for resilient beauty. Thank you very much. This is panel and Paula.
A lot of questions in my class. I'm just